So, ladies and gentlemen, I take exceptional pleasure in welcoming today in your group, and I do this on behalf of Professor Project Coordinator. We are welcoming Professor Prakash for these two very enlightening sessions. This gathering certainly doesn't need a detailed introduction to the various coveted positions that he has held. Up to 2017, he was the chairman of the UGC. Before that, he has been at the NIPA, at NCRT, and also an advisor at the Planning Commission, an educationist, and I must say an exceptional educationist with deep insights and sincere commitment to the area of educational uplift of the country. What I would like to take special privilege in mentioning here is his Aligarh connection, which is being re-strengthened today by his presence. Right from acting as a resource person in our subject refresher course on education, to being the chief guest of the commemoration meet of the Sir Syed Day function, which is the crowning glory, the one single most important function of the Aligarh Muslim University, where actually the chief guest is seated on a buggy that is pulled by horses, just like the royals. So having gone through that kind of a special Aligarh connection, he's here today again to speak to you on educational policy as well as funding and grants in the higher education system. No one better than him to do that. We are especially thankful to him for taking all this pain, starting early in the morning, this cold and frosty morning, where you don't even feel like touching your nose. He took this journey and he's here with you. We also welcome his friend who's here with us. He's from Australia, and you're all going to Australia. So this will be a 2.5 hour discussion, let's say. We will be serving tea and snacks here only, and then by 1:30 I will request sir to wind up, and then he will also accompany us for lunch. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Very good morning to all of you. It's indeed a matter of great honor and a very special privilege to be with you this morning. And at the outset, I would like to congratulate each one of you that you have been selected for this prestigious program, which is launched under Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching by the Government of India. This would certainly provide you a very good opportunity to interact with various people from your field of education, and this will also provide you an opportunity to make new friends because you have people from IIT, VIT, Shastra, central universities, and you are going to get another opportunity when you go to Manas University to make some new friends there. See, I'd like to share with you the genesis of this program actually. When I was working as a Babu with the University Grants Commission, I had given the suggestion to the Honorable Minister, and I was inspired by the interventions of one of our fellow colleagues from Jawaharlal Nehru University, Professor Panchai. He and me were on the Executive Council of a central university. And I was considering myself that I know a little administration, I know a little financing. But when I saw his interventions, I was so deeply impressed. And then a thought came to my mind that why should we not identify senior professors or senior faculty members from across the universities and put them on committees like Finance Committee, the Board of Management, the Executive Council, Academic Council, so that they get some kind of an orientation and they become ready to take the higher positions, that of the Vice Chancellors or the Director of the premier institutions. And we were not doing it like that actually. And many times what happens when we are picked up as professors from the Department of Physics or Department of Chemistry or Department of Geography, and then given the responsibility of steering the affairs of a university, then we become a puppet in the hands of the registrar and the finance officers, because we do not understand the distinction between planned and non-planned. We do not know anything. We have never ever heard something like GFR and now JAM and those kinds of things. So it is extremely necessary for each one of us actually to know as to what is happening, how the universities and institutions of higher learning are steered, and so that we are not fooled by the people actually. So this program now has taken the shape of this leaf. I'm truly delighted personally actually about it. Today, what I propose to do is, having said that, I would like to reflect on the economics of education, and therefore I am going to deal with the financing of higher education. I would also like to share with you the contours, the issues and the implications of the new National Education Policy 2019, which can come out anytime actually. So I have divided my address into two parts. First of all, I am going to speak about the economics of education, so that we have some idea as to how we have been financing education in our country. But before that, I think what is necessary is that we should know a little about the growth of higher education in the country. And I'm not going to take more time about the history of higher education in India. I would simply say that if you wish to trace the history of modern Indian higher education, you can go back to 1781. And it started off from the city of Calcutta actually, where the people with creditable reputation approached the then Governor General Warren Hastings and requested him to articulate a policy on education. We did not have any policy on education until that time. Though, I mean, we would call that we had Nalanda in 5th BC, we had Takshila during 6th BC, and we had Vikramshila during 8th century. But I'm not going to go into that aspect. I'll slightly give you an idea that from 1781 till date, how have we reached where we have reached today. He did not do anything for 36 long years actually. Not he. He went away. Then another Governor General came, and the third Governor General came, but nothing happened for 36 long years. These gentlemen from the city of Calcutta, they decided to pull up their resources to start an institution of higher learning in the city of Calcutta. And in 1817, they set up the Hindu college. That was the first institution of higher learning which was established in our country, 1817, which subsequently became the Presidency College and now the Presidency University. So then on that pattern, the people at that point in time learned from the group of that city, and they also started setting up colleges in different parts of the country. The second college came up during 1833, which is known as Pune College. Then we came up with Hooghly College. Then we came up with Agra College. Then we came up with Elphinstone College. Then we came up with Madras Christian College. So these were the institutions which were established until 1852. And then came the Wood's Dispatch in 1854, in which I would request you actually to read that Wood's Dispatch, wherein he had made as many as 100 recommendations in 100 paragraphs. And of them, one of the recommendations pertaining to higher education was that we should set up 3 universities in the port cities of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. So after a gap of 3 years, in 1857, University of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras were established. So, I mean, you can also say that the modern Indian higher education started off from 1857. You can also say that it started off from 1817. One interesting feature which you would rarely find anywhere is that these colleges were not awarding degrees actually until 1854, until 1857 in fact actually, when they were affiliated with Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. They were awarding completion certificate. They were awarding finishing certificate. Some of them would call it a finishing certificate, some of them would call it a completion certificate. And that certificate was good enough to go to Harvard and Oxford and Cambridge and the other Western universities. After we came up with these 3 universities in 1857, then we decided to affiliate the existing colleges with the universities. And universities were not the places for teaching and learning actually, to begin with. They were only the examination centers. The departments we started setting up very late actually, and the lead was taken by Calcutta University first, and then subsequently in Bombay and Madras University we came up with the departments. At the time of independence, we had 29 universities and 500 odd colleges. I'm not spending time on the different phases of higher education. I mean, the first phase was the early 60s when the former Prime Minister of the country envisioned to setting up some premier institutions. I mean, soon after independence, we set up Radhakrishnan Commission actually, which is also known as University Education Commission. And lest I forget, let me share with you that if you read these 2 documents, Radhakrishnan Commission report, and if you read Kothari Commission, which was brought out in 1966, you would come out as a very learned man actually. The kind of exercise which was undertaken by Kothari Commission in 1964 has never ever been undertaken in this country, and I do not have any information whether such a comprehensive exercise was ever undertaken by any foreign country. It's a beautiful document actually. Anyway, today I'm summing up that part actually. Today we have 993 degree awarding institutions. So it's a large number actually, which includes central universities, state private institutions deemed to be universities, institutions of national importance, different categories. They are all degree awarding institutions, and the number of students is about 37 3.7 million actually, 3.7 crore students. The gross enrollment ratio is 25.8%. I'll stop that. Now let me come to the economics of education. How have we handled education in this country? And I have no hesitation in making a statement that public spending on education in India has become a joke. I'm making a very loud statement. It has become a joke actually. See, the Kothari Commission in 1966, when it submitted the report to the federal government, it made a recommendation that we should spend 6% of the GDP on education. And that was the time when we had only, in 1966, we had only 29 universities and 1,900 colleges. No, not 29, 49 universities and 1,900 colleges, when he made this recommendation that we must spend 6% of the GDP on education. At that time, we had started public spending on education from the order of 0.68%. When we got independence in 50-51, we were spending only 0.68% because we were a very poor country. The literacy rate was only 18%. 18% number of institutions were also very small. So, but when he made this recommendation, it gave us a symbolic measure of the significance of education. Symbolic importance to education. And mind you that this was the time when we were passing through a very hard time in 1966. Famines, we had just concluded the war with Pakistan of 1965. And there was also a political instability in the country. In 1966, there was also a political instability. The Congress was split into two. Pandit Nehru had passed away. So that was a very difficult time. And the idealism, the fervor of idealism of freedom struggle was also waning away. Like it has completely waned away now. We do not know anything about the freedom struggle, nor we take any pride. The kind of sacrifice which was made by our leaders at that point in time. Today, the conditions are quite different actually. By any standard, India is far more prosperous today than it was in 1966. समझे? हम सब लोग जूते पहनते हैं और I'm sorry, we have colleagues from Shastra. We are much better off, from any standards. People have higher aspirations, and education is valued across different sections of the society. You would find that a laborer also wishes to send his or her child to an English-speaking school with necktie and uniform and all that, which is very good and which we must appreciate. But despite this favorable social climate, education has not become an agenda of national concern. This is very inherent. Every year, actually, the union and the state budgets, when you critically analyze the budgets presented either by the union government or by the provincial governments, you will find that education does not figure as a priority item in the budget which we present. And then the legitimate question is why India does not worry about its educational crisis, or why it is not spending adequate resources to bring about qualitative improvement in education, to make education accessible, quality education accessible at an affordable cost actually. One way to seek an answer is to look back. The first few decades following independence, we had very limited resources, so you can very well imagine that the annual growth rate of number of institutions, annual growth rate of student enrollment was also very, very low. But then came a time when it seemed as if education might become a priority because of societal demands. But before this demand could become a political voice, the states, I will not say states, the state actually, and when I am saying state, I am talking about the nation state. The nation state got seduced by the opinion to privatize education. And now we have reached a very fascinating stage in that sense. And now we are in such an advanced stage of that fascination that you make any suggestion to the government, the state government or the central government, that would be acceptable, basharte you do not ask for enhanced resources. That is not acceptable, but all other demands are acceptable. You tell them to launch any kind of scheme and they would say, if they find a little merit in it, they would say, yes, you go ahead, but don't ask money. You mobilize your internal recoveries. And then you have the load jams, which you are witnessing today from across different campuses of institutions of higher learning. But how long this viewpoint will continue? And when are we going to realize that by hurting education sector, we are hurting the national economic interest of the country? Because education is extremely critical for the growth and development of the economy at the individual level and also at the global level. And if you look at the international scenario, you will find that in all developing economies, and if, for that matter, in some of the most developed economies of the Western world, education is considered a public good. It is not considered a commodity. And it is...
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
So when you say education, is it STEM education for the economic growth or is it non-STEM also?
Education includes all domains of knowledge. Compartmentalization of education, I'm not talking about the compartment. See what has happened, I tell you. Why there is so much of disgust and stress in the civil society. It is primarily because we are undermining the significance of humanities and languages and social sciences. And if we continue to put them on the back burner and think that economy could be driven only by STEM, only by mathematics, science, exact science, engineering, then let me tell you that we will become a very weak society. We will become a weaker society rather. Because, and I like to give a very practical example actually from IITs. When IITs were established, initially, in I think first IIT was Kharagpur, isn't it? Yeah. In 1956 or something. Yeah. We did not have the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences in IIT. Because at that time we were envisioning only to prepare the outstanding technocrats actually. But no sooner had we established IITs, then we realized that what are we preparing these engineers for? If they do not understand their society, if they do not understand the economic issues, the societal issues, the social problems, then What are we preparing them for? And then the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences was set up across all the IITs. So let us not undermine the significance of the humanities and social sciences and languages. This is the point that I wanted to make. Now, higher education, in fact, as I said that higher education has witnessed unprecedented expansion of institutions as against 25 odd universities and 500 odd colleges at the time of independence. Today we have 993 universities and 37,645 colleges actually, as is reported from the higher education survey brought out by the Government of India. They traditionally, higher education in all, as I said, in all developing economies is publicly funded actually. But now there is a shift actually. And what is that shift? The state funding is shrinking. I would say that the size of the 11th five-year plan was 85,000 crore. The size of 12th five-year plan was 110,000 crore. So when you look at the figure, you find that the size of the 12th five-year plan is bigger than the size of the 11th five-year plan. But when you factor the inflation rate, you find that the size of the 12th five-year plan has become smaller than the 11th five-year plan. If you factor that, only the inflation rate. So public funding is not keeping pace with the growing number and with the expansion of the universities. There are frequent cuts in the funding. If the University Grants Commission is committed by the federal government to provide 60,000 crore for a five-year plan, then towards the end you would find that not even half of that money reaches the University Grants Commission for the purposes of disbursing it to different institutions. Half of that actually. So from the union budgets you will make very loud announcements, but in real terms that money is not reaching the institutions, and which is why you would find the condition of even the central universities. Even the central universities are having the pinch. They are not getting. The social demand is increasing. The social expectations are also, social demands in terms of access and the social demands in terms of the facilities. Today's students are very much different from my generation of students, and certainly even your generation of students. Their demands are very, very different today. And the public institutions are involuntarily offering the self-financing programs. They do not want to offer self-financing programs, a public institution. So in a way, you are privatizing the higher education on the campus of a public university. This is where we have reached. And the foreign direct investment, opening of the foreign educational institutions. So the high quality higher education through private institutions, I would like to make one observation here. Let us not undermine the significance of the private service providers. So high quality higher education in this country in the past had come only through private initiatives. Be it Jamshedji Tata, who set up Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore in 1909. Thakur Rabindranath Tagore, who set up Shantiniketan, 250 miles away from the city of Calcutta, in Bolpur village. Sir Syed Khan, who set up this institution where we have assembled today. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, who set up Banaras Hindu University. And similarly, Gandhiji, who set up 3 Vidyapeeths. these were they were the institutions which were set up outside the university system because British were not promoting education at that point in time. So let us be very clear that we need high quality education through public and private partnership. So I am not undermining the private service providers, they are very important, that's the need of the hour.